instance at the general hospital, obviously the other hospitals could have the same problems, and I'm wondering if once we pass the LED lighting, if all the hospitals could be done right at the beginning, and then move on from there. Or that would be a problem.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the initiative that we have before you today is for the high voltage lights. I'm not sure what the voltage of the lights are in front of the other hospitals. We know that the one down at the General is part of this initial 10,000 light upgrade, where we have an additional 27,000 lights to convert to LED at some point in the future. We'll be bringing that back to you at other times. If it's part of this, and we'll have a look at that, we can give those areas priority. I believe that some of the stuff that Mr. Sharp was talking today was a combination of their lighting and our lighting, so we're glad to coordinate with that.
Okay, so I take out of that through you, Mr. Chair, if it's the high voltage lighting, and if all the hospitals will give that priority as for the installation, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duval. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple issues. First of all, does the hospital pay taxes to the City of Hamilton?
Not my department.
I think we know the answer to that. But.
Well, I just want to highlight, and I think this is a good example, every time that the hospital comes in and looks for enhanced services around the hospital, we need to understand, Mr. Chair, that the heads and beds that's provided through the institutions hasn't been updated since the early 70s, and certainly isn't even close to what services they're using and utilizing in this community, and therefore the taxpayers of this community are subsidizing those levels of services. I want to highlight that every time the hospital comes in and asks for enhancements around the hospital. And not that I don't support it, but we need to understand that that formula has to be fixed. It's not fair for communities that have 3 or 4 institutions the size that Hamilton does, that we're getting inadequate funding for the services being utilized by those particular facilities. And these are regional facilities that are bringing in over $2.5 million in the context of catchment. So I just want to make sure that that's highlighted. The second issue I have, Mr. Chair, is that we have neighborhoods. We have neighborhoods that have equal issues. I can name some around Mohawk College. So I need to understand what is the criteria to determine the staging of the and the prioritization of this lighting system.
Mr. Moore.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, other than taking direction from council, the speed at which this conversion is going to be done for these 10,000 lights, a couple of months before or after is not, hasn't been a priority that we've seen necessary. We're glad to put that forward in our tender to get that work done on that at that speed, and note some priority areas. As you can see from the report later on, it is necessary for our funding to have it all complete in 2015. So we'll be going at it with whatever contractor with all speed possible. That type of speed for that conversion is fairly aggressive from what normally would be done. I'll just also note that any new construction that we're doing, like the work that we're doing on West 5th and Fennel, the work that we're doing on Concession, the work that we're doing on Mountain Brow Boulevard, those automatically get upgraded to LED. They're not part of a conversion where we wouldn't normally be doing construction. So those that type of work, and as well as King Street in Stony Creek, all get the upgraded LED conversion.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Councillor Whitehead.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. I was looking for that clarification. I mean, I understand the issue and it needs to be addressed. I just want to make sure that we're not knee-jerk reacting to these issues and understand there's broader issues. There's people that pay 100% taxes based on current value assessment in neighborhoods that are at risk. and that we need to ensure that if we're going to bring that lighting system, and it sounds like you're going to do the best you can in 2015, that we take those things under consideration as well, is all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Mr. Sharp, I believe that will be the conclusion of your presentation. May I have a motion to receive? Moved by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Whitehead. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on now, we have presentations. We now have item 7.1 before us. Jerry Davis, General Manager of Public Works, will be presenting to us on who does what within the Public Works Department. Welcome, Mr. Davis. The floor is yours.
Let me just. Video's not working? Nancy called over. It was working. How did it start? Just a bit of an intro. No sound. Beautiful. So what the Well, anyways, it was a video just depicting, I'll narrate it as it's going to be over, depicting all the services that are provided throughout the city by the Public Works Department. And again, at a high level. What I want to go through now is you have the presentation, but you also have who does what that has been provided, will be provided to all members of council, committee and council today. And it provides you the breakdown of who to contact with regard to the different services. So the first division is Hamilton Water, and Hamilton Water, what we have here is it's in charge of all the water distribution and collection, the treatment at all the plants. And again, it's probably in excess of 130,000 homes that utilize the water system throughout the city and wastewater. We have here the operations side of it, and this is from last year, and you'll see a few sides with respect to the the ongoing operations requirement regarding the weather conditions, but also part of the theme as we go through here and going into the budget is our aging infrastructure that we have to deal with on an ongoing basis as a Public Works Committee. Picture here of it's the SCADA, it's the Supervisor Control and Data Acquisition. This controls all the underground infrastructure we have throughout the city, and we have in excess of 4,000 kilometers of water and sewer pipes, and it's all maintained, valves, plants, outstations, so it's a very unique system. And then again, ongoing operations by the Hamilton Water Division. So Dan McKinnon, this is where he stands up and does a wave, and most of you know Dan, so he's probably coming around talking to you with the ongoing budget coming up. Dan's been with the department, or the city, in excess of 20 years. We just had his anniversary, so he's in charge of all of the operations for the Hamilton Water. They include both compliance and regulation, the Woodward upgrades, and planning and capital. The key with the Hamilton Water is at the plant, there's significant construction taking place. The last item on here, it's over $1.5 billion in capital infrastructures, including the plant. But one of the key things is we have the lab down at the Woodward footprint site, and we just did the Hamilton, what is it? We did it on Thursday, the Hamilton Water Quality Management Review, and there has been zero non-compliant items with respect to the plant last year, which is a fabulous feat, and it attributes to the staff that work with Dan. A significant number of water main breaks. We treat quite a bit of wastewater. One of the keys is we took the plant back after the 10-year operation, and since we've taken it back, we've never been out of compliance, which again is a great credit to the Division of Hamilton Water. And then the ongoing lead service replacements. But again, one of the things is we talk about our culture, and this is a case where really it has been sensational service in the delivery of the water for the city of Hamilton. Corporate assets and strategic planning. Again, this is where a number of the structures you see around the city, they really add to the aesthetics of the city. This is the bridge over the QEW, which is a showcase for the city of Hamilton. We built it about 4 or 5 years ago. All of the splash pads are designed uniquely for each of your constituents, depending what ward it's in and what the needs are. This is all done by the Corporate Assets and Strategic Planning Group. Just for Mr. Ferguson, the field that it's a great fan experience. We still have a bit of a challenge in getting it commissioned, but it's going to be fabulous for the citizens in Hamilton. And I talked to Councillor Green this morning for the neighborhood down there and everything that's going to go with it. It's going to be amazing. So it's coming along. And then one of the other successes for this area is the bidirectional bike lane on Cannon. It's being utilized. We'll do the analysis. It's a 3-year pilot, but we'll get all the data for it. But again, it shows the adaptability and how the innovation for the staff that work in this area. And of course, they're under John Mader. Going to wave, John, or? And John's portfolio: energy, fleet, and traffic, facilities management, capital, the strategic planning, and then the transportation planning component, which is the alternative demand transportation, cycling, pedestrian. It's all under that portfolio. So again, under Rome D'Angelo, Director of Facilities, he has over 500 facilities that he provides services for. Again, going in, put the pitch in for the aging infrastructure, going into the budget. It's a challenge in all our areas. Jeff Lupton, the Director in charge of energy. We've hit our target of 20% energy reduction. We've increased that target this year, and since 2006, we've accumulated over $32 million in cost savings and cost avoidance. Jeff's in charge of a significant fleet within the city, again, maintaining all of the services to ensure all the operating departments have them. Installation and maintenance. So the traffic signs, a significant number of traffic signals have been installed, both the full pedestrian, full control, but also a number of pedestrian as needed throughout the city. We have 32 parks in open space development forecast for 2015. So this is new, but it's also all the renovations to existing facilities that are required. And we have, our bike lanes, we've added a significant number throughout I'll say the last 10 years as part of the program. But one of the keys here is we do both, standalone cycling renovations, but every capital project we do, when we redo a road, we work with the ward councillor to install bike lanes as needed. Environmental services, again, this is your all of the forestry and horticulture key initiatives. I think forestry was probably in the limelight the most last year with the storm damage and all the trees that were down. When we had the Emergency Operations Center activated last Christmas, they were key in working with the hydro companies. to ensure we could get the roads back operational. They do have, we have a tree trimming program in place that council's authorized. We were on a 12-year grid cycle. We're now pushed out to 14 years because of the demand of just meeting the emergencies. But again, that's something that we'll continue to work on for the residents. And again, there's the emerald ash borer, which is puts a significant pressure on the overall canopy as well. The cemeteries are part of the portfolio. This is the Hamilton Cemetery Office. This won the Trillium Award at the Mum Show this year. And again, it's something that is we're very proud of in Hamilton, how we maintain the ongoing maintenance and serving the residents of the city. One of the key things is the beautification, all the traffic islands throughout the city. You come in east, west, north, or from the south, come from the north, it's the water. We have traffic islands everywhere, and the city looks amazing. And again, this is something that, we had it out of the budget, we put it back in, and we do a great job of maintaining it when you're accessing the city for the aesthetics as well. Craig Murdoch's in charge. Craig's portfolio, again, is forestry and horticulture and parks and cemetery. And, the metrics have been, very challenging in this area because of, first of all, we're planting the new trees, but we're taking out significant number of trees because of the emerald ash borer. The other one is the number of tree damage calls from the ice storm with 22,000. And I think our normal in a year is about 1,500. So this is something where we're catching up on this. We still have calls, but it impacts the ongoing maintenance requirements. We maintain the 4,000 acres of municipal parkland and the open spaces. And again, this is where it's key. We have our summer student program, who really are the people who cut all our grass once we get them on board. So it's a very good program, and the maintenance level for the parks and the number of cuts that council set the service level at, we've been able to maintain it. The flowers greenhouse at Gage Park, we rebuilt the greenhouse there, and we have our own production for plantings. And the next item, a lot of you were there for the Mum Show, which was again a great success. And the theme this year was Pan Am, which was it's great. It's in less than a year we're going to be hosting the games, all the soccer in Hamilton. And then the ongoing municipal cemeteries, we have the 69 sites that we maintain throughout the city. I think 13 of them are still active, meaning we have land. 20. So I should have read my notes. So anyway, but it's ongoing, and we have, when a cemetery is abandoned, the city is required to take it over. So that also happens. Transit. So this is a new portfolio, and again, all of the number of routes. We have over 30 routes throughout the city. We have over 200 buses, and again, this is a service where council has actually increased the service levels over the last 4 years of council under the sustainability measure, and so those services have been increased, especially along the mountain, along the east-west corridors. So we have all the buses in Hamilton are low floor, so they're all accessible, which is, the fleet is in very good shape, and there's no bus that's not low floor that can provide for that accessibility, which is very good. We have the downtown transit terminal, and you'll see a report today on some more terminal enhancements. And this is money that was from Metrolinx we were provided, enabled us to do a number of capital improvements, and you'll see today we have more ongoing. So the residents and the fares that utilize the transit, they have a good service level. We also have the accessible transit system, DARTS, and again, this is a critical service for the community, especially with the demographics that they are, and it's going to be such a significant requirement going into the future. So So in his 5th week, David Dixon is here, and I understand he knows a few people from the past. But David has come from previously worked for TTC, came out of the private sector, and he's back now. So he's in his 5th week, and things are going very good for the operations. Again, here's the portfolio that is under David, under the transit. And right from the accessible, as we talked about, down to the transit support services, which are very important for the community as we move forward. So one of the things was the Rapid Ready Report endorsed by Council, forwarded onto the province last year. This is, we were directed, and it will be coming in this year's budget. We're doing a 10-year service plan. What does that look like for the conventional transit system? Again, a number of buses, 221. Again, we have the number of bus stops and again, shelters, that's ongoing. We're working with the Access Committee in order to ensure that we have the right stops and the accessibility at all of the locations. So it's ongoing, and again, as we add additional subdivisions come on stream, we provide the additional services, roads, waste, transit, parks, and that. So it's all we have to ensure we're accounting for making sure the service gets to those new subdivisions. We have over 22 million people who ride the HSR, and again, the DARTs, it went 665,000 trips, and that's growing every year. You'll see we've opened the park and ride facility at the Mount Hope Transit Center, and there's a report today on the other 11 sites that we want to expand. And again, this is a nice Metrolinx provided us the funding for this, so the capital dollars are in place in order to make this happen. Second last one, engineering services. And engineering services does all of the right-of-way assets, linear assets, and bridges. This is the Pearl Street Bridge being installed, the pedestrian bridge in Ward 1. Again, everything that's under the roads, we don't always see it. We worry about the roads and what's going on, but there's significant infrastructure underneath the road that's critical for the operation of the city. And again, this all falls, the construction of it falls under the engineering services, and then the operation is under Dan McKinnon's area. All of the roading, this is the paving, that road work that has to be done throughout the city. Again, this picture of the Queen Street Hill, very, contentious, the butternut tree issue, and that has to be dealt with. But at the end, it's a great product, and, the sustainability of the roads in that area, and for the escarpment crossing is in excellent shape. Just another example of roads being completed. And then we also, while we do right-of-way, we also, for the working with the John Maters group, and we look at all of the local, the surrounding area municipalities and their BIAs or downtown. And, when we do a right-of-way, we also try to incorporate the history of the area that for the city. We're doing Stony Creek is being done right now. King Street, it's similar. When Ancaster was done, we built in this for Stony Creek. A similar project is being done. We've done it in Dundas as well. You'll see it on Concession Street when we redo it next year. We incorporate all of the BIA's input into it. Smiley, Gary. Again, Gary's in charge of asset management, the construction design, and geomatic corridors of management. And the geomatics and corridor management is where the LED lights are, coordinated by Gordon McGuire's group. And just some metrics. Again, every year there's 50 to 70 construction projects. We talked about the LED lights, and we're going to talk more about that today. The 200 lane kilometers of completed roads and sidewalks, and again, we have the over 6,000 lane kilometers of road that we have to maintain. So getting 200 done, if we can do it consistently, it definitely helps the deficit that we have. A lot of the rehabilitated water main, no digs. So we've been doing sewers for the past 10 years where we line them. We do very little open cut for sewers. We only open cut in the event that it's fully collapsed and not working, or in the event it's not the right capacity. Otherwise, we line it, which saves a significant amount of time, money, and it's also no inconvenience to the surrounding community or businesses. We inspect on an annual basis all of our sewers, and then again the asset management program in place in Hamilton under Gary and John Murray, is one of the leaders in North America. But the nice thing about all the municipalities and asset management is it's not proprietary technology. We share all the information in order to ensure that we are we're doing best practices. And last, we have operations, and again, this is really, the 24/7. All of the divisions have 24/7 operations, but again, this is one that's key for the I'll call it the citizen-facing services that they see the people from operations every day. We have the winter maintenance. It's ongoing, and last year I think our crews were just outstanding in the service we provided for winter maintenance. Council established the new service levels, and I think I'd give it an A. I don't know about an A+, but definitely an A rating for last year's service. It was exceptional. We have in charge of all the, this is the landfill site. One of the issues, we renewed our contracts for waste management in 2013 for 7 years. Part of that and the initiatives we'll bring forward through the Solid Waste Reduction Task Force is how do we continue to extend the life of the landfill, because that's a very precious asset for us. And at the same time, we have the cogeneration, one of our cogens at the landfill. It generates energy that we make money on. So it's a very successful program. Operations takes care of all the what I'll call not the major construction, but this is repair. So all the structures, stormwater management, ponds, culverts. This operations is responsible for taking care of all that maintenance work throughout the assets in the city. Betty Matthews Malone is on the end. Welcome back. Betty was here right up until 2:03, and she's in her 5th week as well. Her and Dave started the same day, so they couldn't share stories beforehand. So it's worked out very well. All the portfolios, road maintenance, winter control, the waste management, and then the capital rehab and technical support along with business programs. Again, we have the responsible for all the waste management facilities, which, the 3 transfer stations, the active landfill, the community recycling, and then also at the Burlington Street material recycling facility and the compost center, which generate revenue for the city. It's very active. Maintains all the road lane kilometers for the city. Catch basins, we had a good discussion last year. Council provided funding where we clean on every 2 years. All catch basins are cleaned. So, that really helps towards some of the flooding we've had in the past or sewer backup issues. Operates all the snow. We processed 235 tons last year, and here's it's 25 million stops every year by the waste management collection, both the internal forces and contractors. So we do get complaints, but on a percentage basis, we're doing very well. And that's it. That's your team. Looking forward to the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We have Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and Jerry, really I'm glad to be working with you again over the next 4 years, and for the new members of Public Works, Councillors Conley and Vanderbeek, very familiar with the lineup we have. Of course, still I have to meet with Mr. Dixon and Ms. Matthews Malone, who's back. I remember her from the regional days and early new City of Hamilton days, but got a darn good lineup, very proud of. Jerry, I know this was a high level. If I could just ask you 2 or 3 questions from a high level. The transit. So the original plan was that a few months ago, under the old term of council, Mr. Chairman, we were going to separate transportation planning and have a director of transit. And the idea was to keep the former director, Mr. Hull, for a little while under transportation planning. Can you just high level give us an indication? Are you still looking to have somebody specialized in the area of transportation planning for our city, the Metrolinks, the BRT, LRT, that whole thing? Or will this now fall back under Mr. Dixon's jurisdiction? Mr. Chairman, through you to Jerry, please.
Through the chairman, what we did when we split it out, we had transportation planning, and we moved a component of what I'll call transportation management. We moved that over into John Mader's portfolio. That area there, that's the bicycles, the pedestrian, all the alternative demand management, transportation demand management. And because they work so closely with Martin White up at our traffic operations and engineering, so we put that section into John Mader's group. The transportation planning component, which was going to be the previous director, that part is going to planning and economic development. Well, that will be on the very high transportation planning. The best way to describe it is when we were doing the Red Hill and the link, we had a transportation planning. What's the 10-year plan for the road system and goods movement in that? So that still is, that portfolio still will be part of the planning and economic development. The other portion, which is directly related with Martin White's area, so Al Kirkpatrick, that will be part of the transportation management, we're calling it, because there's a good synergy there. When we did the Cannon Street bike lanes, Martin White, Al Kirkpatrick worked hand in hand, and that will continue for all of the different there's just new legislation has just been approved with respect to the pedestrian and what the responsibility is both for the driver and the pedestrian now and the cyclist. So we're building all that into the portfolio. John can talk more on it because I'm probably.
So Jerry, I listened to you carefully, Mr. Chairman. So in essence, the Rapid Ready report that Don Hull had authored, that past council endorsed unanimously. In essence, that falls under now Director Mader. Mr. Chairman, through to Jerry.
No, through the chair. Sorry, that's still with Dave Dixon. So that's still. So we're bringing forward a 10-year service plan, which comes out of the Rapid Ready report. That will come through Dave Dixon. So again, that's a service level. We had the IBI report in 2010. We've taken that, looked at what service levels have been increased recently, just the east-west routes on the mountain. And the Rapid Ready, so the implementation of it is part of Dave Dixon's portfolio. But the transportation planning, which is I'll call it the 30,000 feet analysis,
yes,
where what's the future looking like, that's not part of Dave's or John's. That will be part of planning and economic development.
So Mr. Mader will work closely with General Manager Thorne and his director, like Steve Robichaud and others. The synergies there, Jerry. Mr. Chairman, again, through you to Jerry. I'm just trying to get this clear in my mind.
That's correct. Yes.
For this new term of council.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, another question, Jerry. Under engineering services, asset management renewal program, again for my new colleagues on public works and Councillor Green, who's here as well. This was a popular program. Provincial federal money, I think, helped to sustain it over the years with some municipal funding. Many of us begged and pleaded for this program to be replenished. Is this is it going to be an opportunity to discuss this with the upcoming 15 budget, Jerry? Because this was such a beneficial program that was very successful in neighborhoods to rehabilitate without spending extra monies to do full reconstructions. Mr. Chairman, through to Jerry for a comment, please.
Mr. Davis?
Through the chair, yes, the 2015 budget, all the projects are in there. Gary's capital budget, they'll provide, there's options. If we want to do one thing, how do we make that happen? So I think we can have that fulsome discussion during the capital budget process because of at the end of the day, the funding isn't sustainable. And so what we do is we maximize what we have with respect to either the neighborhood program, asset preservation, but we also have the reconstruction key projects, as well as the other bridges in that. So all of that is part of the capital budget process. So the discussion on the allocation of the funding, well, we've slotted it in. It's, again, it has to be approved by council so we can have those discussions.
Excellent, Jerry. You'd be surprised during the election campaign. Don't know if any of my other colleagues had questions from their electorate, Mr. Chairman, but it was a misnomer, Jerry, when people said in one of the last meetings of the old term that the asset management renewal program ran out of money. And I had people at the door saying to me, Councillor Jackson, you've run out of all this money. You got no more money to fix a pothole, to fix a crack in the sidewalk. I said, no, we have roads operation maintenance budgets. We have capital budgets, and the specific excellent program, because of federal provincial money that ran out, that's the one we're looking to replenish. So I think that's important, Jerry. We have that discussion for the new term of this committee. Lastly, sidewalk snow clearing. Well, I believe the old council left that over for this new committee and council. So, Mr. Chairman, through to Jerry, will that be a forthcoming discussion point at a future Public Works meeting, please?
So through the chair, we took direction. We've included an enhancement in the 2015 budget. So when the budgets come before they go to GIC, that's where we were directed to bring it forward as part of the 2015 budget. You'll see the enhancement in there.
And Jerry, that's to look at the pros and cons of possibly clearing all sidewalks, things like that, Mr. Chairman. Through to Jerry.
Through the chair, that's correct. It's not in our base budget, so it would be an additional impact on the 2015 if we were to approve it. But it's there. All the information is there for GIC to review.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Jerry, I've always been very impressed with the way your department embraces technology and photograph and able to airbrush. I'm sure made you guys all look good.
We got good staff.
I just want to expand, on Tom's question, and that was around the Rapid Ready report, but more specifically, in this last campaign, there's a lot of debate around LRT. And, of course, we know that that whole issue is in the hands of the province right now, waiting for our resolution to get answered to have 100% capital funding. But what staff person will champion LRT, because it's going to be an ongoing issue throughout this term?
So through the chair, I'll have to talk to Chris Murray regarding that. That's still up in the air.
Okay, so I assume it'll come out of Public Works, so you'll be involved in it, won't you?
I'll have input into it, yes. It's still very, the Rapid Ready report is our focus.
Rapid Ready covers all.
It covers everything. So the first thing you're going to see is a 10-year service plan for conventional transit. And then for the LRT and the other portion, that still is something SMT has to deal with at a higher level moving forward. So I'm saying for the next 4 years, we want to try and get the conventional transit in place, understanding I don't know where the province is with regards to the input coming back on Rapid Ready.
Okay, so I'm sensing you, and I don't want to pursue this any much further, but I'm just sensing that because it's such a big project, we may have something like the Red Hill Expressway where you have a special project office on that one issue.
That's correct. That's what SMT will discuss, and when we get clear direction on what's happening next.
Once again, Councillor Jackson took the lead on this, but to follow up on Councillor Jackson's question, I know that there was enhancements around sidewalk clearing, but through you to Jerry, just so we're clear, we're going to continue like last year with a bare pavement policy on residential streets, not just salting them.
Oh, through the chair, yes, that service level is it's in place. That's what we did last year. We'll continue to do it. So when we hit the number of centimeter threshold, then it's plowed to bare. Or is it called bare or clear? I'm not sure.
No, bare pavement policy.
Same as last year. The identical service levels are in place.
Threshold still 10 centimeters, is it?
I don't have the service in front. Whatever the service was last year, that's exactly what it is. And it was a good service last year, so it'll be a good service this year.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last term of council, we talked about asset management, and certainly the City of Hamilton has been a great contributor to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in regards to understanding our infrastructure ongoing deficit, and that's being acquired right across this country for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Now, what I had asked as chair at the time was that we bring back, especially for this new council, we got 4 years that we can measure, but ward by ward asset report card, so to speak, that shows the amount of kilometers of roads and pipe and so forth in our wards that are fair, poor, etc., whatever the measuring matrix is, so that we can have a clear understanding of what the challenges in our own wards. I think that's behooves us around this table when we're fighting for the very little dollars available to also understand which communities or which areas are being left behind. Because I don't think anyone around this horseshoe wants to leave any area behind. But before we can get to that point, we need to understand what the state of the infrastructure is ward by ward. So can I ask when we can expect that report to come forward?
Mr. Davis or Mr. Moore?
So through the chair, talking to Gary, I think that will be February. He's saying yes, so February we'll bring it. This comes to Public Works, Gary?
The answer is soon, Councillor Whitehead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I mean, we expect it to be ready early in the new year. How that comes forward, we can have that discussion, whether it's a report or whether it's individual meetings with all the councillors that I usually set up and go through, or we can give you each of your own wards and then review that, however that.
Whitehead?
I was hoping that it would actually be a presentation as well as individual discussions, so that not just the councillors have that context, but we take advantage of utilizing live stream and educating the broader public on the challenges across the city through those types of presentations. So I think it behooves us to look at a greater way of educating the general public of what our real infrastructure challenges are, ward by ward. So when people, and I know during the campaign, Mr. Chair, and I'm sure around this table, you heard a lot of concerns about the state of our roads. And I think we need to start educating on two fronts. One, what is our state of infrastructure? One, and two, what is our financial capability? And three, obviously, what is the role for the other levels of government to facilitate this challenge for municipalities, not only in Hamilton, but across this country. So this starts the education process, and that's why I think we need to be open, transparent, and utilize every vehicle we have to educate the general public on those challenges.
Okay. Well, through the chair, it'll be a presentation to committee. We'll make sure of that.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. We now have Councillor Duval.
Thanks, Jerry. Just following up on some of the questions from the previous councillors. One that we had talked about the last time. I won't get into road cuts because I know I talked to Gary and we had a good conversation, and I know he's going to try to do his best going forward. But on the preventive maintenance side for the roads, we never had an account. We don't do that kind of preventive maintenance on our roads. We have operations and then we have the capital. So we just, whenever the complaint comes in, we got a pothole, we do it. But some of the roads, when we get we put the black caulking in there to prevent it from the future to doing any further damage. We don't do that any longer. Is that going to be coming forward as a presentation of what we're going to be doing to have a preventive maintenance program?
Yeah, so through the chair, when we come with our 2015 budget, we have those items built into the base budget because we know they're significant for the infrastructure. One of the things that it's a challenge, and we'll have the discussion, is that those type of reactive maintenance we have to do are more and more prevalent because of the overall condition. So part of it also is there technology out there? Can we look at it? What's the best way to address it? Yeah, I think the other thing we've chatted about is someone's there doing one thing and it's they can fix something else right there. That should become part of the culture for maintaining the roads. Understanding cost consciousness with the budget we get, but we ensure we have road patrollers and we have the maintenance standards we have to maintain. So we have all of that, but that still doesn't give us good roads and great maintenance, so we have to continue to build on that. So it's a number of things. It's both the culture of when the workers are out there. It's also, is technology available, and that includes both the type of materials as well as the application processes. So that all of that has to be looked at again.
Okay, so there's something will be coming forward and
Yes.
have the discussion with the committee. Great. And the other thing was when the policy of the snow removal on our city streets. One of the problems that we had, we did a great job, I think, last year coming back from where we were. Are the contractors going to be notified? So a lot of times we have new people and they don't know what the policy is and the new policy, and then they miss a court here or they miss the bend, and are they going to be brought up to speed right away?
Well, through the chair, I believe the major contractors are in place. So contracts were awarded last year. We have the majority of the same contractors are here. They know the service levels. But I think one of the key things that Bob Paul did is he worked with all of them on that. So again, Bob is manager of winter control, and what he did last year, he'll continue, and he'll ensure the contractor. If we have new ones, we'll get you a list of who the contractors are returning and if any are new. And it was clear. Because last year was new contracts, and he was able to educate them, and I think more important, his communication style to all of council, depending on what was happening that day, he'd send out updates on a regular basis, which everybody understood what was happening that night or that day for that storm event, whatever it was. So, and we could provide you a list of the who's back and who's new, and.
That's great. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tall. We have no further questions. Hearing none. May I have a motion to receive Mr. Davis's presentation? That's moved by Collins. Councillor Ferguson? Sure. Yeah.
I think you may have picked up today that winter control is something that's always very sensitive. It makes sense. Bob Paul come into the future public works meeting. Talk about his contractor turnover and GPS systems, whether we're going to be able to see it on screen.
So knowing Bob Paul as well as you do, he's going to say, talk to me in April because he's very busy. But he will be presenting again. He's definitely, we're working on the GPS and AVL. So we will have Bob come. But again, his main priority is giving the same service as last year. So that was a little tongue in cheek. Bob, you've dealt with him.
Outstanding. But generally, when you renew contractors and you have performance issues and don't know where they are, I just want to get comfortable with that because it's very sensitive out in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Whitehead?
I don't know if it was clarified, but we still have, you mentioned in your presentation, and I'm not sure how we move forward on the Pan Am Stadium relative to the reporting, the committee. As the committee gets reestablished, it reports directly to Public Works and Public Works, again, to Council. Is that correct? GIC.
Ms. Davis?
Directly to GIC.
Or Mr. Clerk?
I have to defer. Chris, do you know? No.
I'd have to check on the reporting structure, but the committee is still struck and it will be meeting.
So the question is there's no updates for the Pan Am Stadium that comes to Public Works, is that correct?
It does through the subcommittee. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk? Yes, it does.
I just want to make sure, because Public Works is not normal that this wouldn't come through Public Works and would go directly to GIC. And I just want to make sure that nothing's changed in regards to that reporting. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Now may I have a motion to receive the presentation? Moved by Collins, second by Ferguson. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on. We have discussion items. We have item 8.1 respecting the 2015 budget, moved by Collins, seconded by Jackson. All in favor? Carried. 8.2, moved by Collins, seconded by Whitehead. Councillor Whitehead.
First, 9,000 off the levy this year.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
This is the committee budget submission for Cycling Committee 2015, and they're requesting 12,000 in total, 9,000 that will be coming off the requested from the levy.
That's correct.
Would this not go to the budget process for 2015, or is this something getting approved now?
Mr. Davis, do you have...
So through the chair, the recommendation you approve it here to forward it to the 2015 budget process, so it still gets scrutinized through the budget process.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not ad hocly approving things prior to the
Yeah,
budget
no worries.
process.
All right.
Thank you.
So on the motion moved by Collins, seconded by Whitehead, all in favor, carried. Moving on to 8.3, Councillor Duval.
Chair, this is where Concession Street is supposed to be fully reconstructed next year, and it's on the schedule. We're asking for the $800,000 that will be coming from the Area Rating Board 7 money to be included into it.
Okay, so that's moved by Duval, seconded by Ferguson. Actually, seconded by Jackson. All in favor? Carried. On 8.3. On 8.4, moved by Collins. Councillor Conley.
The question, I know we're getting money from the provincial government to do this, but there's a limit to when it has to be done. And if we keep adding more on, like the hospital stuff and other things, is that going to jeopardize our meeting our date? Because we missed dates, from my understanding, not being on council and before. And I want to be assured that we're not going to miss any dates that's going to.
Okay, Councillor Conley, Mr. Davis, or Mr. Moore?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, this is one of the reasons that we brought it so early, so we can get a jump on this. We want to get it tendered very early, if not before the end of the year, so we can get the jump on it. The hospital stuff was already included in the work we were doing. It's just a matter of where they start and where they finish. The schedule will be aggressive. We will need to put some terms and conditions in the contract to make sure that the contractor's aware of our needs to have him complete before the end of the year. But staff are, relatively confident that that it's not an exorbitant risk that we finish this work in time for to
I
get the
guess
incentive.
my concern is how many more items are going to come for lighting? Like, this might be just the start of what's going to happen, and we really got to keep control of it, and I'm sure you will. I just wanted to make sure that we realize that there's a lot of money involved in that, and we can't be late.
Thank you, Councillor Conley. We now have Councillors Collins, Ferguson, and Jackson. Councillor Collins.
Thanks, and through you, Mr. Chairman, the payback's fairly aggressive, but I'm curious to know, the first priority then is the replenishment of the reserve, and the second part of that would be the operational savings that we'll see somewhere down the road. What year would we start to achieve those budgetary savings after the reserve's been replenished?
Through the chair, if we complete it at the end of 2015, we should see savings 16, 17, 18, replenishing the reserve. So 2019 would be the start of direct savings on the levy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, through you to Jerry, or Gary. First of all, on the performance side, the 10,000 fixtures, I know Cram is our contractor that does street lighting and does an outstanding job, but will you be bringing in more contractors to make sure this gets done on time, issuing a separate tender, or just one contractor going to be doing it all?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll put out a separate tender just to do this work.
And you'll be awarding just to one contractor?
Just to one contractor. We're still talking about it on, we're doing a pre-qualification on the materials. We're also contemplating on the terms in the tender itself on whether we do an RFP type of thing so that we ensure that we have the right resources with the contractor ready to do the work and not simply just a low bid, one person with a pickup truck and a ladder type of thing.
What's the downside after certainly our experience on the stadium where a contractor misses 6 deadlines and this has high consequences because you lose the $3.5 million or part of it, whatever's not done. What's the downside of bringing in 3 or 4 contractors, Gary?
Through the chair, I mean, if we were to separate this up into 4 contracts, do 2,500 lights apiece, there's nothing to say that one contractor still wouldn't be the low bidder on all of them. Or then we would get, we'd give we do the first part to the low bidder and second part to the next. And then, so you're paying substantially more on the installation of what we think can be done by one contractor with sufficient resources and the right contract language.
Okay, I just think you're saying you're being vulnerable, but I rely on your expertise in this stuff. You want to put everything into one contractor, as we did with the stadium, and we saw what happened there. If you take 10,000 units and one crew does 10 per day, that's a lot of crew days in order to get this work done. So I just like you to consider splitting it up. And you're right, the same contractor could be low on all four if you split it into four separate contractors, unless you disqualify them after they get the first one. But just leave that food for thought for you, because I don't want you back here in a year with your hat in hand saying, geez, we didn't get it done. At the very minimum, I think you need to give this committee quarterly updates of how you're proceeding with the schedule. Not involved. So, Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't mind amending this motion so that we get quarterly updates to know if we're getting in trouble and whether we should be calling another contractor and to see whether we can pick this thing up.
All right.
And
Good
I'll make that a motion if you come back to me. I have one more question, though, through you to I guess, Gary or Jeff or Jerry. When I was chair of Public Works a couple of years ago, there was a real pushing match going on between Horizon and the city on how much energy light fixtures consume because they're not metered. And you went, I think, to the Ontario Power Authority for a ruling on that. Where are we with that is the first question. And the second one is, does Horizon agree with the new rate for LEDs that will generate $700,000 in savings?
Through the chair, the last question is yes, Horizon's on board with the power factor that will be charged for the lights, which is correct, unlike the incandescent lights and ballasts and those types of things that are with the current type of lighting. So it will give us more certainty. There are other things that we're still in discussions with Horizon on, and we haven't had the outcome from the Energy Board yet on our other issues.
Okay. Is there someone on staff that can give us an update now? Because I recall it was a lot of money, and the issue how much, I think it's the high-pressure sodium fixtures were consuming in energy, and there was a difference between what the city thought and what Horizon thought. And we were being charged, according to the city, significantly more. So do you have an update for us on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Gordon McGuire. What you're referring to is the energy consumption of a high-pressure sodium fixture. The city of Oshawa, did a review of their fixtures and found that the ballast charge on top of the fixture was slightly different than what they were reading. We did our own readings with Horizon Utilities, and what we found was that the equipment varied so significantly across the corporation that it was very difficult to use the Oshawa study. And our net result was, in order to get a statistically valid sample, we would have had to measure a lot of lights, and our cost benefit on that it didn't appear to be very good. We're also looking at LED retrofits in the future. An LED light gets billed exactly what the wattage is on the fixture, as opposed to a high pressure sodium, which also includes a 100-watt bulb plus a ballast, so there's an additional overload on that. So as it stands right now, our hope to use the Oshawa study wasn't proven out through a fairly quick review of the fixtures we had on board.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, Mr. Chairman, so you withdrawn your appeal to the Ontario Energy Board on what energy is being consumed because you found that maybe we weren't correct in what we assumed? Because I remember it was a lot of money involved.
Mr. Chair, we didn't go to the Energy Board on that. We went to the Energy Board on a number of other issues with regard to their rates coming up. We got the intervener status on their rate review. We were in discussions with Horizon for a long time, and we still meet with them regularly to try and get these issues. We haven't abandoned it. Is there likelihood that we'll get retro on it? Likely not. And with the go forward on the LED, we're putting a lot of that behind us. We haven't given up on it. we'll still have those discussions, and at some point in time, we may bring forward a recommendation to council to deal with it otherwise.
Okay, interesting. There's quite a change from what we thought a couple of years ago. So, Mr. Chair, if you come back to me, I'll put an amendment.
I'll accept it now.
Okay, I'd like to move an amendment in the staff report back on a quarterly basis, the progress being made on the conversions to the LED lighting.
Mr. Clerk, understood? Okay, so that's seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Jackson.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So, Gary, just so that I completely understand, the 10,000th light has to be installed by December 31st, or if that 10,000th light, we did 9,999, I'm not trying to be sarcastic or cheeky here, but if we got 9,999 installed, and darn it all, that 10,000 light got past midnight, December 31st, the provincial funding is in jeopardy. Mr. Chairman, through you to either Gary or Gordon McGuire, please, or Jerry.
In the report, it talks about a plus or minus 10%. So if we're a light short, we're not going to be penalized. It's outlined in the letter from Horizon what the incentives are. So there is a buffer.
Good.
You know, and I think one of the key things, as Gary said, and we're going to report quarterly, is the contract will have those clear deliverables in it, and on the other side, the clear, for lack of a better word, liquidated damages in the event they don't hit it. So, you know, it's something that is it's good for everybody, especially a contractor getting a program like this. So, you know, excluding the stadium, as per Councillor Ferguson, all the other contracts going through Gary's area, we're generally on budget and on time. So, you know, we have a good track record, and we'll make sure committee, if anything goes south on this, we'll definitely be in front of committee to let them know.
Thank you, General Manager Davis, and I'm glad Councillor Ferguson put the quarterly report amendment. Lastly, in spite of Mr. Sharp's presence here today, and I don't see, I guess he's left to get back, I'm sure, to his job. In spite of that, and that was the first I've heard, don't know about my colleagues, but that was the first I heard about lots of accidents, trip falls, problems with lighting around the hospital at the General. I want to make sure, like I've got McCastle Lodge, there's Sackville Hill Senior Center, there's a new recreation center at Westmount, I'm sure other facilities across all our wards where hundreds, if not thousands of people, seniors, disabled, whatever. So I want to make sure, and I just want to hear from staff, I appreciate his plea this morning, this being a priority, and I sensed the interpretation was, hey, committee, move this one up like to the top and make it a high priority, get underway right away. But I don't want that bumping other priorities, especially around city-owned facilities and places like that. So can General Manager Davis or Director Moore give me some response to that, Mr. Chairman, through you, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the upgrade itself is not a safety upgrade. It's an upgrade of equipment so that we can save money in energy and maintenance. It's the same light level that's there today. If there's a safety issue today, then we'll put a light in there today. It's a different kind of light. It doesn't have the light pollution that a normal bulb gives off, either upwards or into backyards. It's more direct. It's a brighter light. So there are. You can see clearer with it, but there's not a big safety initiative. We're not doubling the number of lights or the amount of light that's there. It's the type of light. It will aid in some of those things, but I believe Mr. Sharp was referring to that they had a lot of problems with their walkways, and that it was simply as a working together type of thing. So we've got the similar types of lights going so that it can be complementary to what they're doing with their light upgrades.
Well, Gary, I heard that, but I also, unless I was asleep at the switch, pardon the pun, I heard him talk about, and can you make us a high priority, please, as we're moving forward? So I just leave that thought with you, Mr. Chairman, through to Gary, that if you had your priority list, city localized facilities, whatever, I want to work closely with Hamilton Health Sciences, but just because one gentleman came in today, first time I heard that there's a problem, I want to make sure you're following through on your priority list. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Duval. Councillor Duval.
Thanks. And through you to Gary. Gary, on the installation of these lights, is it as simple as changing a bulb, or is it the whole light fixture and rewiring?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's the head on the end of the arm, so that whole head gets changed out with the new fixture. It has the old one has the bulbs and the ballasts, and this new one just has the LEDs and the switches and
So
sensors.
at 10,000, we're probably looking at 800, replacing 800 a month, and approximately 40 a day for that month. Is that correct?
Chair, on an annual basis, using our contract forces, we would re-lamp about a quarter of the city. So that was around 10,000 of the old HPS systems. And that was the rotating maintenance method to do that. Cram Electric, who's been our maintenance contractor for a number of years, would do a re-lamp in a zone in approximately 2 to 3 months with I believe, using around 4 crews. So our expectation is this is a 16 install period with a 4 crew utilization. If we attract a larger contractor with more resources, which is what we hope to structure the contract to do, it will be a little more aggressive.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is you figure 3 to 4 months this should be done?
4 months would, through you, Mr. Chair, 3 to 4 months would refer to the install period. In the interim, we need to properly select the fixtures, acquire the supply install contractor, and make sure that the fixtures going on the poles meet the correct spacing and the road widths. So there's some pre-engineering to be done, and then once we select all those fixtures to ensure that they're in the right location, the contractor will then begin the installations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor DeValle. Councilor Whitehead.
So am I to understand then we currently have in stock 10,000 lights, LED lights ready to replace on post?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, that's what the tender will be for. It will be for supply and install. So we'll get a contractor, and he will supply the lights and install them.
Okay, and we have ideas in regards to the availability, back order, those kinds of things with this request? Because a lot of municipalities are going in this direction, so I just don't know what the demand is on the manufacturers.
We're doing a pre-qualification on the supply of the material right now. So part of that is your ability to supply that many lights for this time period, to pre-qualify you to be named in the contract. There's a number of different types of lights out there, through you, Mr. Chair, that we can take. They're all LED, but we need them to perform in a certain fashion and be guaranteed for a certain period and give a certain amount of light off. So there's any number of different manufacturers out there capable of doing that. So we're going to make sure that we know which ones that we want to have and then name them in the tender, so we can say to the contractor, when you submit your bid, please carry one of the following 3, 4, or 5 types of suppliers.
So here's the question then, if the supply can't meet the requirement, and we've seen that happen, lines go down, strikes, et cetera, what does that do to our $3.5 million from the province if the product can't be delivered?
Well, if we don't have the material, we're not going to be on the hook for spending anything, because we wouldn't have paid the contractor for putting it up. So we're only going to be to the point, if we have it, we'll put it up. The contractor will have to get that material as the first thing. We don't anticipate. We have enough people that are banging down our doors to supply us not only our 10,000 but our 37,000 that we're looking to do.
Fair enough. I just want to ensure that all eventualities are thought through. I guess my biggest concern is through the current tender process, it's the lowest bid, and you're required to give the lowest bid. So you could have that mom and pop truck with a ladder making the application, having the lowest bid, and if they meet the financial wherefore-all and whatever other basic criteria you have, they could get the contract. Is that correct?
Theoretically speaking, yes. If we find that we don't think that there's someone that has bid that is capable of doing the job, we'll bring this here for further direction.
Is there anything we can do proactively in regards to this procurement process to ensure that on the pre-qualifications that we set that standard higher as because of the commitment we have with the provincial government?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the tender itself, for not to disparage any, the mom and pop type of contractor, but you have to be a linesman, you have to be qualified to work on power lines. So, I mean, all those qualifications will necessitate that a qualified contractor is bidding the work, or he won't, with the proper licenses. We don't anticipate that we're going to have a problem with that in that time.
Well,
we could do pre-qualifications. The problem is that will kill about another 6 or 8 weeks off of our time frame. Okay. So we're trying to proceed as quickly and as judiciously as possible. We'll have specific parameters within the contract. We may even, after the debate here this morning, one of the things that we're may do is put in quarterly targets rather than the end target, and then be able to assess the contractor, better on what his status is going forward, and we'll have the reciprocal contractual requirements in there.
So just for context, we had the Pan Am Stadium qualified. Apparently, contractors didn't deliver on time. We didn't. Sorry, you're correct. IO did. We have the multi-use facility in my ward that again didn't get delivered on time. So it's not like, that's why I'm a bit nervous. Is that we had Buckingham, and the story there. Again, qualified contractor coming forward and making a bid and making a mess of it. So I guess the question, when there's a penalty of $3.5 million that could be lost as a result of this, I would see it as a higher priority because that means the taxpayer's off the hook for that amount, or they're on the hook if this isn't delivered. So the question is, what can we do to protect the taxpayer of this community in this process? And I think we've talked about it. I think obviously thanks to Don and starting this discussion is important to all of us, and we've had experiences where things haven't been delivered. Mr. Connolly, how's that? So I just want to ensure that everything that can be done is being done, not to jeopardize the funding. And I think that's the message. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Now, on the actual item itself, moved by Councillor Vanderbeek and seconded by Councillor Conley. All in favor? As amended. Carried. Moving on now to 8.5, moved by Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, just a quick question on this. A related issue, another Metrolinx quick fix was about a year ago, we approved the installation of the social bikes or the bike system. I see around the city a series of bike racks set up, taking up parking spaces, but I don't see any bicycles. That was approved about a year ago. So my first question is, why is it taking so long, if this was supposed to be a quick win, to get those things in place? And secondly, please tell me you're not going to install them just in time for the first big snowstorm where they get buried in snow and ice and salt. Through you, if I can, I'll start with Jerry, and he can deflect to whoever he wants to.
Who would like to answer that? Huh?
Excuse me. Mr. Chair, that's one of the programs that's just come under my...
Can't hear you.
That's one of the programs that's just come under my direction. The contractor has had a few issues, I guess, in terms of approval from federal approvals for their communication stuff. That appears to be resolved now, and we are discussing internally about timing for the installation of the bikes. I can get you some further update. I'd have to talk to Peter first, that's all.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's, sort of piggybacks on the last issue we just discussed. Was there liquidated damages in that contract for when they had to have these vehicles or these bicycles up and running, available to the public? Because it was $1 million we spent on that.
Again, Councillor, I apologize. I'd have to get that information from Peter, but I can do that and get back to you.
If you can do that, appreciate that, please. And secondly, is it safe to say you won't put them out there now until the spring so that they don't get ruined in the salt and have early rusting, because it's going to be difficult to ride and they're buried nice with where they're located, which is in pull-off areas or parking areas. The snowplow is going to put that windrow right on top of them, which is going to be a lot of salt. So will they be the spring now before they're installed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's the question we're wrestling with internally. We can take that as direction, or we can, I can review that with our own staff and come back to you with our thoughts on that. But yes, I have the same reservations about putting them out just before the snow flies.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, it doesn't make sense you put these things out there to be buried nice when they're brand new and have an early depreciation because they're sitting in salt. But I would like to hear something back. I'd like to know why they're late. What are the consequences of being late? And are you going to wait now till the spring before you put them out there so they don't get damaged with winter control? So do you need a motion for that, or can you provide that as direction?
Can you take that as direction then? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ferguson. And now we have Councillor Collins and then Whitehead. So Councillor Collins, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And I'm looking at the Quick Wins project budgets on Table 1, page 2 of 5. And the third project is the transit priority King Street Transit only lane. And I'm curious to know when will council be in a position to make a decision to revert back to a fully functional lane through the downtown? Is that something that we can offer up as an early Christmas present to downtown merchants, or is that something we have to wait till the new year for?
So, through the chair, the report is being prepared. It was on the one-year pilot, and that will be coming to Public Works. We had to report in the first quarter, so you'll have that report.
Is there a way to expedite that at all? Jerry?
Through the chair, I'll look into that. I know it's coming in January, so we don't have another meeting till then, but I can we can read the tea leaves very well. So we'll get on it as soon as possible.
Okay. And I asked that in the context of when the chart or the information that's in the chart, it says that it's 300,000 and the revised estimate's 300. I had contacted finance about a week ago to ask them about the cost of the bus lane and what we've spent to date. And at least out of the account, we had spent almost $500,000. So I'm trying to understand the 300 that we have here, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Jerry, versus the $500,000, nearly $500,000 that finance has quoted to get us to where we are today. My subsequent question would be, and if the report's coming in January, I could probably wait. What is the cost to go back, and do we have sufficient funds to revert back to the fully functional lane?
So through the chair, I'll talk to finance, see where they verify the numbers they have. Going back to the way it was before, I'll get the traffic guys to give me an idea, because it's signs and markings. I'm not sure of the total cost, but we'll have all that. We can get back to you as soon as possible with that information. We'll do that by email to all of council in advance of the report.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you. I'd certainly be prepared to end it now. Normally, I like to hear reports before I make decisions, but I think my mind has been made up a long time ago on that particular venture. The question I have more specifically is on the bike share. Help me understand. So there's salaries being paid and so forth while there's no revenue being generated. Would that be a correct statement?
So through the chair, the $1 million from the city is for the capital only. The operations, to the best of my knowledge, John can jump in, is the contractor. It's not the city's. They're operating it.
Is it correct there's no revenue being generated at this point in time?
Not sure what it's revenue.
Well, through the chair, no, the bikes aren't there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So there's operational costs such as removing snow to provide access to these locations. If you've seen them, they're in high areas where are very vulnerable to windrows and so forth. who picks up that additional cost? Because we know that on the bike lanes, it's $400,000 to individually pick up the snow to provide that bicycle access throughout the winter months. Who's picking up the cost for the clearing of the windrows around these bike share stations?
Through the chair, the contractor, that's part of their operating costs, not the cities.
That's their operation. Do we have a budget or a line for that already, or
The
I haven't seen
contractor does.
anything?
The contractor does.
Okay, so we have contract that responsibility to them? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Now we have Councillor Connolly.
Again, I'm looking at on historical background of this report. Says any further delays in these projects could jeopardize the funds. As such, all quick win projects should be time sensitive. Are we time sensitive to these things?
Mr. Davis.
Chair, yes, we are. We work with Metrolinx, explaining to them where we are in the process. After it's approved by committee, council, and we go to procurement, Metrolinx is kept in the loop, and they're supportive of that.
So there's no chance that we're going to lose out on any of these funds?
Through the chair, we've given Metrolinx the timeline. We hit the, and we're going to meet the timelines.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Connolly. So on item 8.5, may I have a motion? Moved by Connolly, seconded by Whitehead. All in favor? Carried. On 8.6, may I have a motion? By Jackson, seconded by Connolly. Councillor Connolly, you have a question. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Probably just information since I'm a new guy in the block. We're buying 24 40-foot compressed buses, right? That's clear. And how many natural, on the next report, it talks about 216 diesel buses. Is that our total fleet, and we're starting to replace the diesel with the compressed gas ones? Is that the idea of this, or are they just old and have to be replaced, or what's our...
Mr. Dixon?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we would replace them as they come to their end of their 12-year life. There's roughly 225. So these buses we're asking for replacement are expired, have reached their 12.
And they're replacing diesel ones, is that right?
Diesel with clean.
And we are going to phase out all diesel ones in the next several years, is that the idea?
That is correct.
Phase out a bus, do we, what happens to that bus? Just goes to...
Generally, through you, Mr. Chair, the bus, we salvage off it, whatever equipment can be reused, and then it's not quite sure of the procurement process, but generally sold.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon and Councillor Connolly. We have Councillor Ferguson and then Councillor Whitehead. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before we approve this today, I just want to go through a little bit of history. A couple decades ago, we decided to convert to compressed natural gas buses. And then over a period of time, the compressor stuck its feet in the air. And then we had trouble with, not trouble, but we were convinced that high-performance diesel engines were the way to go and converted back to diesel. Now, last spring, we agreed to go and spend this money on a new compressor station and on these new buses in the order of about $15 million. And at that time, oil was running about $105 per barrel or thereabouts. Oil today is trading at $62 a barrel. Before I raise my hand and support this, I want to make sure we're not heading into deja vu all over again. Exactly what we were worried about back in May. The forecast where the diesel was going to continue to go up and natural gas is going to go down, when in fact the opposites happen. I'm not sure where natural gas is now, but I filled up my car on the weekend and I paid $1.02 a liter, and I was paying $1.35 6 months ago. So, just doing a sober second thought, are we doing the right thing by going back to compressed natural gas when all the experts are saying the U.S. has never generated so much oil in history because of this new technology called fracking, and they no longer need to import as much oil as they used to. And the projections are that oil will probably continue to fall off, maybe not much further, but going to continue to fall off, and I'm not hearing anything about natural gas. So I just want staff to reassure this committee and reassure council that we're making the right decision, because I'm sitting here terribly uncomfortable about this.
Or, yeah, Mr. Mayor? I mean, who would like to say? Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, diesel certainly is very attractive right now, and like diesel, like or oil, like natural gas, they're both benefiting from the new fracking technology that we have in North America. We fully expect to see, peaks and valleys in the marketplace. The key part that we still have today is natural gas really hasn't gone up in terms of the city's procurement. We still have the ability to hedge on that on a forward basis. To do that with diesel is limited. So we're a little bit more susceptible to the peaks and valleys of the market on the diesel side than we are with the natural gas side. For long term with diesel and gasoline, it's really anybody's guess. It's a world commodity. A lot of it has to do with what happens with different policies in the world with OPEC and others. It's a great time right now for the lower diesel costs. Over the long term, it's probably you're going to see the same differential between diesel and natural gas that we when we had last year. We still had a 4-to-1 benefit in terms of the pricing. Last year, that's come down a bit, but another year or two out, I wouldn't be surprised if we're in that same range.
What's happened to natural gas prices in the last 6 months since our initial decision?
In terms of the city, because we buy wholesale and we buy at specific times when we hit the valleys, we're not projecting any increases in natural gas pricing for the 250.
So it's not going down like diesel is?
No, but natural gas has declined steadily for the last 8 years. So we've basically hit the bottom end of natural gas, going forward. I think you'll see them both continue to climb over time, but there is a lot of supply of natural gas in North America. They talk about 100 years supply with the natural gas, so we're still in pretty good shape.
Okay, but Mr. Chairman, diesel has gone down. Natural gas has stayed flat. And this is the same cycle we went through 20 years ago when we first bought the natural gas buses, then phased them back out, went back to diesel. Now we're going back on natural gas and diesel's going south. I think it's the first time in history OPEC hasn't stopped production to keep prices up. And so they know something, that there's an abundance of oil supply because of new technology and getting it out of the ground. And so it's probably going to be a long-term situation where oil prices will stay low. But, I would feel more comfortable if we just had a revisit of the assumptions that were made in May when we made this decision on forecasting diesel prices and natural gas prices and what is the payback, because things have changed so radically. But before I consider a motion to do that, through you to I guess, Jerry or Jeff, we've ordered the compressor station, have we not? That's been approved by council, but we have not ordered the buses, is what I see in this report today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I just wonder, Mr. Chairman, I'm anxious to hear what the rest of the committee thinks. We should just take a sober second look, based on what's happened over the last 6 months, on whether this is still the right decision to move from diesel to natural gas in light of what's happened in the marketplace, because it's been radical. And oil down to $62 a barrel. Well, I want to hear what if the rest of my colleagues don't agree with me, then I'll pull back. But if they do agree with me, then I'd be happy if you come back to me to make a motion. And then if we report back in January, and so we could see that.
Just on that, I'm one of those that believe that we got to hedge our bets to get the best value. So I don't want to go all one or the other. I think there's a strategic balance relative to the whether it's natural gas or diesel, and it's not limiting completely one or the other. So is that not what we originally initiated, was to ensure that we had sort of a strategic balance so that if there are those kinds of shifting of tides, that we can adjust accordingly?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in our report in January 2013 and last year, we had talked about looking at natural gas over the next 5 to 6 years, which would essentially put our fleet at the 50% level on natural gas, with the remaining 50% being on diesel, and then having that opportunity to stand back and look at the market at that point in time to determine what the next best steps were regarding technology, because, as everybody knows, electric buses and electric vehicles are also on the horizon, but they are some ways out there. So 5 to 6 years puts us at about half fleet, and it gives us the opportunity to review what we've done and review what the markets are looking like at that point in time.
So because of that, Mr. Chair, I'm quite comfortable where we are, because I thought that I remember asking that question when we started embarking on this process. I never want to put all my eggs in one basket. It sounds like we are taking a strategic approach and then reviewing it in 5 years relative to new emerging technology. So I certainly support the current track that we're on. The other question I was going to have is, I don't know who I need to ask it to, but most companies are going to just-in-time arrival, so you're not having carrying cost of parts within a warehouse. What is our current practice? Are we doing just-in-time arrivals, or are we carrying an inventory that we're paying charges and interest on?
For you, Mr. Chair, we were, and that's actually part of the next report that's coming up for transit, but we do as much just-in-time inventory as we can. We've looked at the market with regards to natural gas vehicles, and if that's the concern that you have at this point in time, that's a very highly produced product at this point in time. 80% of the natural gas engine is exactly the same as the diesel engine, so parts and inventory are available throughout North America, and approximately 30% of all buses sold in North America are natural gas, and the producers of those engines are all the same engine, and that's Cummins.
Thank you. My questions.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. We have Councillor Jackson next.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Similar to Councillor Ferguson, over the last 20 years, from the regional days to the new city days, my head was just absolutely spinning, from the hybrids to the diesels to the compressed natural gases, back and forth. It was almost a maddening type of process in terms of trying to understand where was the best hedge for the transit fleet, and where was the best maintenance, and what was the most popular that was out there, what was being phased out. Anyways, I found with all the respect to General Manager Davis and our new director, Dave Dixon, to Supervisor Mark Selkirk. Mark, months ago, I had about an hour and a half discussion with you. I found you to be one of the most knowledgeable in terms of trying to have an idea as to what the market has and what the market will be predicting in the future. Can you, Mark, and you knew my serious, real concerns from 6-7 months ago, similar to what Councillor Ferguson's expressed today still, but you sold me on it, Mark, back then. Can you further, these are your two reports, 8.6 and 8.7 you've authored. Can you further elaborate as to why you feel, in light of the concerns still expressed, in light of the cost with the diesel and the gas prices at probably the lowest point in several years, why you're recommending this today, Mr. Chairman, through you too? If I could respectfully say to General Manager Davis, if I can, from Supervisor Mark Selkirk, educate this committee. General Manager Davis, that'd be okay, please? Mark, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. When we started this process in January 2013, and there were some misgivings, the cost of diesel or gasoline at that point in time was $1.10. It sits somewhat below that now. And the statements made at that point in time were, if we were to switch to natural gas today on a $10 million diesel budget, and we could flip that switch from $1 for diesel to 50 cents for natural gas at a fully burdened rate, we would cut our fuel costs in half. That dynamic, from what I've seen in the market today and what I'm looking at in the future markets, is still the same. I don't believe that dynamic to have changed at all.
And so, Mark, you feel and you're confident and stand behind what you're recommending here today, signed off by the general manager, and I'm sure Director Dixon, you stand behind this, or do you feel, you know what, okay, in light of some of the concerns expressed, maybe take another month or two and have a fuller debate as to what's maybe showing on a mapping on the slides, what's happened over 20 years, or do you feel there are more pros moving forward still with this report versus tabling it for now? Because I was satisfied with what you had educated me on, Mark, months ago, and I think the fact that we have a balance of not going a holus bolus one way or the other, replacing the fleet entirely one way or the other, I still think is a prudent way to go. Mr. Chairman, through you to Mark for maybe a concluding comment, please, Mark.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The cost of fuel is one factor in this decision. The cost of maintenance for the current diesel or clean diesel engines that we have is another factor. We'll have these clean diesel engines for a dozen years, and the cost to maintain that diesel engine has gone up significantly over time. There was a point in time when a diesel engine was the least expensive engine to maintain. Basically, turn the key, start the engine, drive the bus for 22 hours and park it again. Those days are behind us. It has a $10,000 exhaust system, which requires repairs about every 2 years. The natural gas engine has a catalytic converter, much like your car, which will be good for the life of the vehicle. We've seen that. The technology for natural gas isn't what we talked about 20 years ago. This is a new technology that's been with us since 2007. The engine's basically unchanged. It's simply been refined. And from all of the market research that I've done and talking to people who have bought these products, they're most happy with the natural gas buses that they've just bought. And some of them have been people who were stung by natural gas back in the mid-'80s, early 90s when we started. So I'm confident that the technology is there. I'm confident that the fuel pricing, with the help of the Energy Department, is still there, and we'll see a reduction. Will diesel come down? Will the delta between the two shrink? It's possible in the short term, but I would suspect in the long term that delta will continue to grow.
Thank you so much, Mark. An excellent answer. And Mr. Chairman, with that, I'm satisfied. That's raised my comfort level to still go ahead with 8.6 today. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. We have Councillor Vanderbeek.
Thank you. I noticed in your report, through the chair, to Mark. I noticed in your report that it talks about these buses will begin arriving in late second quarter of 2015. So if the committee were to decide that we had a comfort level in waiting a month to hear back about the costs, etc., as Councillor Ferguson suggested, would that jeopardize the delivery of these buses?
You, Mr. Chair? No, it would not.
Thank you.
Okay, if I could just pass the chair to Councillor Vanderbeek, who's the vice chair. Through you, Madam Chair, I wouldn't mind just simply revisiting the issue in light of the new issue surrounding the price and have it assessed and reported back to us prior to it being finalized. So if Councillor Ferguson does bring forward a motion, I'd like to support it on condition, as Councillor Vanderbeek mentioned, that it doesn't interfere with the process. But I want to know if this oil price issue is an anomaly or if it's a long-term situation we're faced with. So on that note, I'd like to second Councillor Ferguson's motion at the appropriate time if he brings it forward accordingly. And I'll just take back the chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. And now we have Councillor Whitehead and then Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Whitehead.
Sure. I thought we heard a pretty balanced response to Councillor Jackson and my comments. That it's not just the long term, because you can never predict how long fuel is going to stay at the prices they are. What we heard, though, is natural gas is still competitive, one. Two, the maintenance cost, if you incorporate that into the mix, we're getting a very good deal with the current strategy, and nothing's changed, status quo. I don't want to delay or discourage staff from moving down that road. I don't see, just because we look through a crystal ball and may determine that the gas prices may be continue to be low for the next year or 2 years, that changes anything that was presented here today. So from my perspective, I'll be supporting the original report.
Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I'm just going to put up an amendment just to test it with the committee. I'd like to move that items 8.6 be tabled for 1 month to allow staff to refresh the cost-benefit analysis based on current market conditions. If I can get a second to that.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Just briefly want to speak to this. We're spending $13,070,000. It's a lot of money. I want to make sure we get it right. Also, we get judged on our decisions, how they pan out over time. I'm not comfortable just hearing a verbal report from staff that everything's okay. I want to see it on a document that's in front of us that we can refer back to in 5 years if this blows up in our face. And I agree. We can't forecast what the markets are going to do. But certainly if you watch CNN, they say that oil prices are down for a long period of time right now. And what's this mean to the cost-benefit analysis that was presented to us in May? Because we were very uncomfortable in May, switching back and forth. 6 years ago, I heard diesel engines were the panacea of transit. Now I'm hearing diesel engines are costly to maintain, exactly the opposite of what I heard 6 years ago. So I want a report from staff saying, recommending to us that this is still the right way to go based on current market conditions. So I put it out there for the committee's consideration.
Any further discussion on the motion? We will test Councillor Duval.
Before we vote on this, just want to be clear through you, Mr. Chair, staff. What Councillor Ferguson is requesting, this would not harm 1 month delay. Will still be proceeding going forward.
That's correct. Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Mr. Davis.
So just, the transparent, we have natural gas buses on order as well already. This is additional. So when you approve the previous year's budget, how many are we buying? 18. We're buying 18 articulated natural gas buses. This is the next part of the order.
Okay. So on the motion, moved by Ferguson, seconded by myself, all in favor? So, all those opposed? It's defeated. Okay. Okay, on standing recorded vote then. Those in favor? That's correct. You have Councillors Vanderbeek, Ferguson, Duval, and Marilla. Those opposed? Councillors Connolly, Whitehead, Jackson, Collins. Mr. Clerk? Defeated. Yeah. Yes. Moved by Whitehead, seconded by Jackson on the report. All in favor? Carried. Opposed, recorded, Councillor Ferguson. Moving on to motions, Councillor Collins. Oh. Vanderbeek's opposed. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so those opposed? Councillors Ferguson and Vanderbeek. Okay. And Councillor Collins. Do you have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself here. 8.7. May I have a motion? Moved by Collins, seconded by Jackson. All in favor? Carried. Oh, Councillor Ferguson.
A quick question. Just so I'm clear in this is sole sourcing $4.5 million?
Is this a sole source?
Is this sole sourcing $4.5 million for the product?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, it is not. This is simply using those vendors as the primary source of those parts, Cummins engines, Garavel fair boxes. We're not sole sourcing $4.5 million.
So, because on page 3, it says that at the end of 2013, had 221 vehicles. The 2014 budget was $4.5 million. So you're still saying you're narrowing the suppliers down then? Is that what I'm hearing, to 2 or 3 that have common parts so we can still put it through a competitive process?
Mr. Chair, the suppliers that are identified there will be single source suppliers or sole source suppliers based on their commodity. The rest of the transit parts budget will be going out through the procurement department for fair and competitive bids. I can only buy Cummins engines parts from Cummins. I can only get Garavel fair box parts through Garavel. So that's what we're looking for here, is to set up a house account for those particular parts that are proprietary to those vendors.
Councillor Ferguson.
I don't want to look like I'm picking on busing today, but this has been an ongoing process for quite some time. Most public works meetings we're coming to is a request for another sole source. Chairman, what's the value of the product you're recommending that we sole source in this report today?
I can estimate at this point in time
That's all I'm looking for, Mark.
about $800,000 for all of those that we've identified here.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. No further speakers on 8.7. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to motions, Councillor Collins.
Yeah, 9.1, this was a suggestion from the clerk's department. I assume it's...
No, it's fine. We don't need to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
But you do have a motion over and above that? A notice of motion.
Oh, for Councillor Pasuta, yes. Oh, transit on the mountain? That's in front of us? I'll move it. It's that the outstanding business list matter respecting transit on the mountain be referred to the General Issues Committee.
All in favor?
It's in front of everyone.
Why is that?
Okay. Mr. Clerk, can you expand upon that, please?
That would be staff approached me with the request, so I would refer to our staff row as a better source of information. My understanding is it's to be brought back jointly with a report to the General Issues Committee, but they might be able to speak to it.
Davis, would you like to, Mr. Norman, who would like to, Mr. Davis, would like to answer this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, we had suggested that this motion be pulled today under changes to the agenda. Originally, there are subsequent reports relating to Confederation Park. Originally, we thought of combining all reports together. Some of the other items will take longer to respond to, so we thought that we could move ahead with the report on Confederation Park on the boat ramp and maintain it here at Public Works Committee.
Okay, point of clarity though, let's get back to the transit one too as well. So if Jerry, you can expand upon, someone had a question regarding the transit motion. Councillor Jackson, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, through you to staff, at least to my knowledge, and I'm looking at my two mountain amigos here, I don't think any of us have been even consulted on why is this being moved to GIC. I have no idea whatsoever. Mr. Chairman, through you to on staff, whoever can enlighten me on this, please. Who on staff then asked for it? Because the clerk has said somebody on staff asked for it. Otherwise, could we hold it over to the next meeting, please?
Through the chair, can we hold it over? We'll get the information.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Problem. So now moving on to the Councillor Pasuta issue. Councillor Collins.
3 times is a charm, I think. And I'm going to move that Councillor Pasuta be added to as a member of the Public Works Committee.
So seconded by Councillor Whitehead. All in favor?
Well,
Councillor Jackson.
Well, I'm supportive of that 100%, Mr. Chairman, but I was led to believe that it had to be done at council because council had approved at the inauguration the committee membership, and you all saw my current email.
Okay, allow the clerk to elaborate.
Please, thank you.
Councillor Jackson, that is correct. We can pass that motion at our council meeting. It'll be addressed in the printing of the council agenda.
Okay, we can approve it and then it just gets directed to council, or
we could, or it can come as a motion just to council, whichever.
What would you like to do?
I'll move it today.
Okay, moved by Collins, seconded by Whitehead. All in favor, carried. Okay then. Now, no private or confidential. May I have a motion to adjourn? General information. General information. Okay, general information. We have Councillor Duval.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, to Mr. Dixon. On the mountain transit, I understand we're going to be putting that off until the next meeting of some of the transportation issues, but we have a problem with the some of our how do you want to say it? Our ridership, and especially with the Board of Education changing the boundaries up there. We need, our children are now complaining that we don't have enough buses to send them to school, or they're late going in there into class because of the amount of increase that is happening up on the mountain because of the school closures and busing the children from the original spot of schooling. Well, have you talked to the Board of Education about the amount of increases? Because our ridership and our service, we're getting a lot of complaints that people are saying the buses are jammed, their child is late, and I just want to know if you have heard of this, or your staff, and what kind of resolvement is happening?
Mr. Chair, I have not spoken with with the boards. We are in the process of trying to measure and reflect on what level of transit we need throughout the system. That will be part of what we bring forward during the budget. So, going out of this meeting, I will speak with the boards and make sure we have their concerns and any
Sorry, Mr. Dixon, I can't hear you.
I will speak to the boards and make sure they're included in any enhancements or improvements in service.
Well, okay, I know my office has forwarded some complaints going since this has happened, and also just complaints of the residents saying the buses are too jammed and they're being bypassed. And now I'm kind of surprised we're hearing it. We haven't heard any of that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we definitely know we have some bypassing going on, and we also know we have some loading situations. We're out there doing counts in the past week or two, get a factual basis to go forward in this coming budget cycle to add service.
So you're saying nothing will be improved until the budget?
We cannot. Other than minor improvements, we need to have both vehicles and operators to.
So minor improvements would help going forward. There is a problem up there.
Okay, we certainly can look into that.
Okay, and could you contact my office, please?
Yes.
With those, I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Duval. We have Councillor Collins and then Councillor Whitehead. Councillor Collins.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. During the meeting, I had the opportunity to go ask Jerry a question, and I wonder whether it's possible between now and the submission of the report as to whether or not we could put a non-enforce on the bus lane, just as we did when we started the project, understanding that those lines can't be repainted. And I don't think anyone needs a crystal ball to understand where that project's going. But I know the lines can't be repainted until the spring, so they're going to be there even when council makes its decision, when it decides not to go ahead with it. What's the, how procedurally can we, between now and the submission of the report, at least go back or revert back to the non-enforce so people can start using the lanes, but the police aren't giving tickets?
Mr. Davis?
Through you.
So through the chair, two things. First, it goes back to GIC. You had asked me that as well.
Yep.
And second, I look at John and what traffic can do. So, I guess we're preempting the decision, but we're directed to report back. So I'm not sure of the procedure on that. But to do it, John can
I think
give me an update.
For those of us, I was someone who opposed it, but I thought it was October to October, and I had assumed that when October came several months ago, that the pilot had run its course. We would then understand internally, through the pilot, what worked and what didn't work. And then at some point in time, council would decide whether to make it permanent or not. I don't think anyone understood or thought that it would go beyond a year and we'd be living with it until council formally made its decision to go one way or the other. I thought the pilot meant 1 year was 1 year. We've passed that 1 year mark, and now it's about creating some kind of a summary and an idea as to whether or not it was successful or not.
So through the chair, John, how would traffic deal with it? That's what you're looking for today to implement.
Excuse me. Through you, Mr. Chair, in terms of the logistics of it, because as you know, the paint markings won't come out until the spring, even if we made a decision today.
Correct.
But I think if we got direction to do that, we would have to make contact with the police, and as well, we'd cover or remove the signing. The signing is an integral part of what makes it enforceable. It's not enforceable.
So knowing it was a GIC decision, or it's coming back to GIC, then we can prepare something maybe in time for our GIC meeting coming up, and maybe I could huddle, Mr. Chairman, with staff in the interim, talk about a motion that seeks to address those issues, and we could hopefully put a non-enforce on until the report comes in January.
On that point, though, isn't a non-enforced separate from that of taking away the lines and the signs and what have you? I see that as separate. So through you, I'll give the chair to no, go ahead. So when I see that as a distinct difference.
Well, through the chair, I'm going to have to get an answer for you. I'm sorry, I don't know the difference. I think we have a GIC on Wednesday.
Correct.
So
We can prepare something in time for that meeting for council to consider. The
non-enforced scenario.
Yes. Yep. With the covering the signs, but the pavement markings are there till the spring,
Right.
even when we make our decision in January.
So through the chair, that'll be a walk-on for committee. Okay, we'll be there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Collins. And now we have Councillor Whitehead.
I just want to ask the staff, we had the major mudslide on the 403, and there was stabilization issues and certainly a huge volume of individuals were inconvenienced as a result of moving transportation effectively. And I know that Councillor Ferguson and I have had raised these issues about a year ago in regards to the amount of times there were accidents on the 403 and how that was backing up our individual wards with, for me, for example, as Gar Street became a parking lot and creating problems for the residents that live along that stretch. There was a lot of discussions about proactively identifying alternative routes when that section of 403 was blocked off. The question now is, what have we done, what are we prepared to do, and what will we be doing to ensure that if there's that stretch of road is closed off for any reason, accident, mudslide, whatever, that we have a comprehensive EDR system that provides that information readily to the drivers needing that access.
So through you, Mr. Chair, we continue to work with the MTO on that. The EDR system that, the long distance EDR that I think they were here with us at committee some time ago, the one that would direct people up through Highway 5 and along that way and back onto the highway. We're at about the stage now for, because council approved that, for the manufacture and installation of those signs. I'd want to caution, though, that there's almost no solution here to an accident that happens in that location. It is very difficult, even with EDR routes. EDR routes are designed to get people off of the highway and back on at the next available exit. So that's the challenge. We don't have alternative routes available. Having said that, we'll go back again and talk with the ministry to make sure that they've heard us loud and clear on that. There are some other things that I think that they may be able to do to help warn drivers in advance. As well, we'll go back again and we'll talk to the police about the possibility of more and direct police control during these types of events.
I'm a bit confused by the comment about alternate, because we know that we identified the expressway to the Queen Elizabeth Way, and bypassing that section was one route. Taking the 52 to Highway 5 and out and across is another opportunity. Taking York Street out to Plains Road is another opportunity. So we have clear defined alternatives to avoid that section of the 403. I thought I just heard that you indicated that we don't have alternatives.
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Those are the alternatives. I guess my point is that even using those alternatives, they just don't have the capacity to deal with what's on the 403. So there will always be congestion, but you're correct. Those are the alternatives that we're working on signing with them.
And I think the major issue is advance warning so people can plan their trips. If it happens on a given day, again, when you provide people from Brantford coming into the 403 well in advance of 52, so they can take it's kind of late when they pass 52 as an alternative route to provide notice to them. Now their options are becoming limited. So I just want to ensure that we're doing everything we can from an information era to ensure that the drivers that are impacted by these events are able to avoid them as much as practical under the circumstances. I just don't know if we've optimized that at this point in time. Certainly, the feedback I'm getting is we have not.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we continue to emphasize that point with the MTO, and we will do so again. And at some point, we may need to engage your assistance in that conversation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Councillor Ferguson.
Just a quick question through to Dan, hypothetical. I know we had a police superintendent in here from the OPP to talk to us about this because there's a major accident on that 403, and we have this little thing called the escarpment that gets in the way of. But their explanation to us, and I've subsequently taken it up with the commissioner of the OPP through the but, you know, they're now closing 4 to 6 hours when there's a major accident, and the reason they're doing that is because the courts and the insurance companies have insisted on it. They want data, they want measurements, they want it to be totally complete. And of course, the question there is, why don't we use drones now, take an aerial photograph? If we can build highways with aerial photographs and aerial surveys, why can't we do that with accidents to clear these highways earlier? So my question through you, Mr. Chairman, to Dan, it would seem to me that certainly the water main breaking and pushing that earth away, you need to close the road till you get that water main shut off. But you kept it closed for a lot longer than that, rather than once the water's off and the main slides is pushed to the side of the road. Why don't we just put up temporary concrete barrier, it interlocks, so it could stop any minor shifting of the earth that may happen after the water main's been closed off? Are we being incredibly cautious? If there's 1% risk, we just inconvenience the entire city by keeping that highway closed longer than necessary?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the problem with the slope failure at that location was that it was the bottom half of the slope that failed, and there was a large void in the slope that couldn't be stabilized until the lane was closed in the subsequent week, and the slope was reconstructed up to the void, and then it was filled with grout. So it was actually the entire week last week that it took to stabilize the slope to make it safe. That was the challenge.
Yeah, I get that part, but once the water main's off, though, and you push the debris off the road, the earth, and you need to protect the motoring public, and those temporary concrete barriers weigh 10 tons each, and they interlock together. If you put 10 of them out there, that's a lot of weight to hold back any potential risk of some kind of a further slide after the big one's finished. So you don't think that your judgment or somebody's judgment wasn't partially influenced by we want no risk, so we're going to inconvenience the whole city because we don't assume any risk whatsoever?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so on the day of the event, the MTO was in complete control of the road closure that day. So I'm not sure if you're talking specifically about the day or the subsequent days, but I think that the concern was that the slope, the way it was throughout the week, it was presenting a risk that nobody was sure how that would manifest itself if it did let go. I don't think any of us were convinced that putting concrete barriers at the base of the slope would restrain it if indeed the top of the slope had let go. So I don't think anybody was being overly cautious there. I think if you had viewed the site, you probably would have agreed with it. Okay,
because it did cripple our city. Even Old Dundas Road is backed up from Wilson Street and Ancaster well way back into Dundas, let alone Garth Street and Wilson Street and everything else. And even Highway 52 was plugged up. Through you to John, though. John, we approved here last summer the EDR route being 5256. So I don't think you need to come back to council again. When will those signs go up so the public knows?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. We don't need to come back to council for that. We are manufacturing the signs now, and so I would expect we'd put those up in the next, probably first part of the new year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. We have no further speakers, so may I have a motion to adjourn? That's moved by Collins, second by Ferguson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.